Hi there, welcome to Transcona Trailer Sales. Today I'm going to be walking you through your 2026 R.POD 180. We are just going to start off the back of the unit. At the back, that is where you're going to find your spare tire, and then coming around to the driver's side of the unit, you do get stabilizer jack. You do have one in all four corners of the unit. They work pretty simply. Of course, you do have to level the unit first, as these are stabilizing jacks and not leveling jacks. Once the unit is level, you can run these feet down to the ground using the 3/4 inch drive tool, which we do have included inside your front compartment, or it is just a 3/4 inch socket. If you're using an impact driver to run them up or down, that is fine. Just keep in mind how much torque you put on them, as you do run the risk of bending them. Once the feet do contact the ground, just give me another 8/4 turn to snug it up. It's going to take me bouncer sway. You can see we have the unit right now away. Right up from there, you do get your standard 30 amp twist lock connection. You just take a note of that notch there. It does line up with that notch on that side. Once you line those two up, you can just kind of firmly press it into place, 8th turn to lock it in, and then you got that threaded collar to really lock it down. If you follow that cord back, you do have your standard 30 amp plug-in. Most campsites should have this and you can plug right on in, but let's say you have the unit at home and you want to run your fridge off your standard outlet, or your campsite only has 15 amp service, which is a standard household outlet. We do include that park adapter. It's going to be located inside your starter kit, inside the front compartment. Just keep it in mind whenever you are using it, you're not going to be able to run your air conditioner. It's realistically just to run your fridge and your lights. Once you do plug the unit in, you get that green light. That's telling you you do have a successful power source. There's a little legislative in case you were to have the green and the red light, or just the red light on. Cable satellite hookup here in case you were hooking that up, and then you do have your black tank flush up from there. Black tank flush, I do recommend using it after every use. Now we know that's not always possible, so the point I was trying to get at is it just helps keep things that little bit cleaner. Just of course, before you do use it, read the caution sticker. It's just letting you know that you have to have your sewer hose connected and the black tank valve open. And the reason being is just if you're pushing pressure inside of that tank, that pressure does have to have somewhere to go. Otherwise, it's going to expand and crack. That's why we get you to open it before you use it, which brings me to our sewer outlet. Take that cap, twist it off. Your sewer hose is going to have the same ears, twists and locks into place like so, which your gray valve and your black valve. You always want to empty your black valve first. This is going to be your dirtiest water fill from your toilets, and then you can come behind that with your gray valve. Typically a little cleaner water fill from your sinks and your showers. Over from there, each 2 low point drains. So if you're doing your winterization process for the year, or you just want the water coming out of the lines because you're leaving it for a couple months and you don't want it going stale or stagnant, this is where you do so. They're called the low point drains. It's the lowest point in the water system. Try and drain as much water out of the lines as possible. A little bit before that, one thing I did forget to mention right here is just that sewer hose storage spot. That's just so that you can keep as much smell out of the unit as possible. Sewer hose slams into there. You're all good to go. Close it and close it up, and you're good to go. You're gonna notice there's not one in there. That is because it's in your starter kit, which is brand new inside your front compartment. Furnace exhaust. Whenever your furnace is running, this will be blowing out hot air, so just be mindful of that. You got your fresh tank fill. So if you're out boondocking, your campsite just doesn't have water, you can either put a garden hose in there and fill it up, or just siphon water into the jug, whichever you have access to. And that's how you would fill your fresh tank. The drain for that is just down right below here. Take this cap, remove it. That's how you would empty all the water out. City water connection, so if you're at a site with service, you just thread a garden hose in there, turn it on. It does pressurize all those lines without the need to run your water pump. And then to my left, you just get the service port for your hot water heater. There's not really a whole lot you need to worry about in here. The two main things, this little power switch here, this supplies power to the thermostat inside. And then right down below here, you're gonna notice this pressure relief valve cracked open. That's because the unit is already winterized. This customer happened to purchase this unit right before winter, so that's why we're doing the video now. But this is cracked open so that at the end of your winterization process, because this is a tankless system, it is winterized a little bit differently. I know tanked systems, if you had a camper before, you had to bypass it because you didn't want antifreeze going in it. This system is the complete opposite. There's no bypass valves there. You just run antifreeze through the system. Once you're finished your winterization process completely, it's always a good idea. Crack this pressure relief valve, leave it cracked open for the duration of winter. So that way, once we do get to those extremely cold Manitoba winter months and the antifreeze starts gelling up, it has a place to escape to rather than cracking inside those coils. Coming around to the front of the unit, the battery would be located there. We don't have a battery on it yet, just because, again, we're going into winter. We don't want it going bad over the winter time, so we keep them inside. Battery disconnect switch on the wall, or on the front frame here with it in the off position. the batteries are disconnected. If you were to turn that to the on position, the batteries then become connected to the unit. Underneath this cover, take that cap, tap, twist it off. It's your standard 120-pound propane tank underneath there. It's just like any standard barbecue. Counterclockwise to open up the flow of propane, nice and slowly opens up the flow of propane to the unit. Now let's say this tank were to go empty. It is pretty simple to get this cover off. Close your tank, undo the wing nut right at the front. There's sometimes a bungee cord right underneath, but I don't think this one has one. And you can slide this cover right out of place, and then you can remove your propane tank. Tongue jack right up front. Now coming around to the passenger side of the unit, we'll check out the main side. And front, you do have your storage compartment. There's gonna be a bunch of different stuff in here, including this skillet. The way it works is pretty simple. You're gonna take it out of the compartment like so. You got these nice mounts here. And R.POD's got this crazy cool thing this year, these new accessory rails. It just makes putting things on that much easier. Just line them, lock them up like so. At that point, grab your propane quick connect hose, undo the one dust cap on the other end. Just keep it in mind, it's always a good idea to either put the dust cap into place, or what I personally prefer is to just roll it around itself and connect it. That way it's a closed system, no gravel, no debris getting inside of it. It's the best method. Undo it. You're gonna take this end, run it down to the floor, take your coupler end, this little thing here, this is to open and close the flow of propane. It's gonna work the same way down below as well, by the way. So you're opening up that flow of propane. Added safety feature, you can't operate the coupler, so you do have to close the flow of propane, remove the little nipple off this end here. Pull back on the collar, push and insert into place exactly like an airline, and then just open up the flow of propane. At that point, take this in here. You're probably thinking, oh great, I gotta carry around another propane tank. R.POD's got you covered. You got your pre-plumbed for another quick connect here. This is plumbed right into your front tank. Again, pull back on the collar, push and insert into place just like exactly like an airline, open up the flow of propane. You'd now be able to fire up your griddle right away. Closing this off, pulling back on the collar, remove it. Again, always double check you got that dust cap on there. You don't want any debris getting inside of there. Sewer hose, again, you have access from the other side. It goes straight through. And then of course, if you want to take that rubber cap and put it back on your regulator end, I always recommend assisting the regulator a little bit too as you're removing it. That way you're just not putting any extra stress on it. And put that cap back on there again so you're not getting anything inside your griddle. And then you can just take your hose, close it all up, and fold it all up. And then of course the rest of the griddle is inside those boxes there. We don't haven't set it up yet just because the unit's going into storage. Get this little water hose here. This is going to be what your exterior shower is. It's located right here. Pull on that, open that up. You do get hot and cold water, which is nice. You don't always get that. And then you're just taking note of the ears on either side of that, lining them up, twist, lock into place. You got hot and cold sprayable water. This end is your standard garden hose end, by the way, so you could thread any garden hose end on if you had one that you preferred more than this, or if this one broke. And then the rest of the stuff inside here is just accessories, including you got a manual override for your front tongue jack, and then of course the 3/4 inch drive tool for your stabilizer jacks on all four corners. And then inside this compartment, last but not least, not only do you have USB charging at the front wall there, which is cool. Get this little light switch, turning that on. Turns on some accent lighting in front of the trailer, so if you wanted to, you know, be that cool guy in the campground, you can be just by flicking that switch. Coming a little bit further down the unit, you get one last rear storage compartment. Again, that's where you're going to find your starter kit. Inside that starter kit comes a 15-foot water hose, 10-foot sewer hose, some other miscellaneous goodies, including that 15-amp park adapter. And now for the best part, to take a step on its side, you can just take that assist handle, push it up, folding it 90 degrees. It will lock into place. That'll allow you to open your door. Opening up your door, just keep it in mind as you're opening your door, there is a rubber bump stop there, but you're pushing on your fender as you, so kind of be careful how much, you don't want to press on that too hard, damaging your fenders. Just keep an eye on how much door openage you do. Hold your steer down. Now take a step on inside, but before that, you're gonna notice, first thing you notice on your left or right is your fire extinguisher, which is just like home. Pull the pin and shoot. And then if I take a step on inside, camera person come up here, take a look at that monitor panel system. So up top, you get your solar controller. At the time of pickup, this will be set up for your basic charging needs. If there's sun outside hitting the solar panels, there's gonna be a charge applied to your front battery. Of course, it's throwing a error message. That's just because there's no battery hooked up front yet. That won't be there. There's a bunch of different settings you can go and play around with. I'm gonna recommend going over the owner's manual before you go over them, because they do go pretty in depth. And then right down below, you get all your kind of main controls for the unit. Light switch turns on all the main interior lights so you can see what you're doing. The interior lights, by the way, are on their own center push button, so you can turn them off or on individually as you please if you didn't want them all on at the same time. Awning LED light obviously turns on the LED light underneath the awning there. And then I'll go over the awning. Before we do go over the slide out, to get the awning to go out, you just push and hold that extend button. The awning's going to start making its way out. Once the awning's at its full extension, you're going to see the back of the metal tube and the little flap come down. Sometimes the flap can get stuck, so you might just have to retract it a couple times to push it back out again. Whenever you're putting this out, again, always keep it in the back of your mind. It acts exactly like a wind sail. So if the winds start picking up, you're gonna wanna make sure you bring it in. Otherwise, you run the risk of damaging your arms or ripping your fabric. Both get pretty costly pretty quick. You're gonna see now we got that back of the metal tube and a little flap hanging down, so we are at our full extension. Now, if it were to start raining, you could take any arm, front or rear, pull down on that little tab there. You can then pull the awning arm in towards you. Lock that into place. Now that's changing the pitch of the awning head, allowing water to now run off if it were to start raining. What else it does is it does allow for more shade underneath as you bring in the shade closer to the ground. You can do the same thing with the front arm. Just make sure that before you do bring your awning in, you release those and allow them back to their natural resting positions for when you bring the awning in. That way it can come in nice, straight, and even. And to bring the awning in, you're just pushing and holding the retract button. The awning is going to start rolling its way in, just making sure it rolls the right way in so you're not accelerating the growth of mold or mildew in there, trapping any moisture. Which brings me to my next comment. If you have to roll it in while it's wet, it's not the end of the world. Just try and remember to next earliest convenience to roll it back out and allow it adequate time to dry off. That way you don't get that mold and mildew. Once the arms contact side of the trailer, motors will automatically come out and you're all done. But I won't sit here and bore you with that. Next, you do have your slide out control. Now it's always a good measure, especially in a unit like this where you have access to view the slide out from the inside, just to make sure that nothing's shifted during travel that's going to get stuck between the slide out fascia and the wall, causing damages. And of course, just on the outside, making sure you have enough adequate space to push it out without running it into anything. Once you do that, you can push and hold the out. You can push and hold the out button. The slide out's going to start making its way out. Once that slide out does reach its full extension, you're going to hear the motors wind up and click. Now, when you're running this slide out, it's always a good measure to do full strokes, but we know that's not always possible, so it isn't the end of the world. If you do have to do quarter or half stroke, it's just a little bit easier on the motor and the gear system by doing full strokes. Now, if you want to be extra cautious, you could run your hand between the slide out and the wall, just making sure that you do feel that rubber seal pushed up against here. That way you're sealing out any moisture from making its way in. Now that the unit's open, you got a lot of storage right behind you. First, we'll go into the bathroom. I'm just gonna open up the door, get the camera lady to stand back a little bit. Light switch is on your right. It's a very spacious bathroom, especially for the size of the trailer. It's pretty much your standard bathroom. Shower, sink, toilet, storage, all that good stuff. Light switch to turn it all off. And next, we do have our dinette space. Again, storage all around, but whenever you're using any of the storage in the unit, just being mindful of drains, water lines, and wiring. You're not going to be wanting to affect any of that with your items. All the blinds in the unit do work the same way. They just kind of sit where you leave them. One quick pull will allow them to retract back up. Now, if you had an extra guest you weren't planning for, this table does fold down into a bed. You're just having to remove these feet from underneath the table, set your tabletop on its desired ledges, and then these two cushions would fill in the center. You'd have yourself a little bed for somebody. Right here, this is the converter for the unit. It's also your main fuse and breaker panel. Whenever you break your trips, it'll sit in the middle, so you just have to turn it off and then back on again to reset it. All your corresponding fuses will be on the right. It's probably going to be a good idea that you pick up some extra fuses to have on hand in case one blows. Obviously they shouldn't, but sometimes they do for the oddest reason. And it would suck if you didn't have a replacement one at the time. On the wall, you get your sound system for the unit. So it is fully Bluetooth. You do have to hook it up to your phone to have any sort of sound play through it. Then you got A and B speakers, A being inside, B being outside. You got your little TV hooked up here. It's on a swivel mount, so you're just taking a note to the travel strap. That's to stop that TV from moving around excessively. Always making sure it is strapped in. Failure to do so, it will allow this to just fling around, and if it damages itself, well, it's a bad day. Up on the wall behind the TV, you do get this little plug coming out of the wall. There's this little black button here. I know you can't really see it on the camera, but this black button turns that green light on. That does turn the antenna on the roof. Now, it's also going to improve radio frequency and cell phone frequency, so I recommend leaving it on whenever you're using the unit, but try and remember to turn it off. That way you're not drawing excess battery power. Coming to the front, this is your bedroom area. On the left, you get the fire exit. You're just taking that red tab, pulling it, the screen's gonna pop right out of place. At that point, take this handle, push up, push and pull out, and then just try and hop out feet first. But of course, if there's a fire, just getting out of the unit as quickly as possible is pretty important. Right at the front, you get that big window. Now you're probably looking at it and think that must open, and it does. You just take the red handles, fold them. That's gonna allow the window to unlock and allow itself to open. And then you got tabs on either side, these little round tabs. If you tighten them with the window open, it's gonna hold the window open. If you loosen it, allows the window to close. And then because Forest River just did so much thinking here, not only do they give you a blackout sheet curtain so that if you're sleeping, you're not getting sun in here, but when you do have the window open, they install a bug screen so that there's no bugs getting inside, or humans or critters for that matter. Underneath the bed, if you pick up underneath this panel, is where you get access to the water pump for winterization. And again, because there's no bypass valves for the water heater, it's all you have to worry about. Right down below, you get your main GFI plug. If you ever have an outlet that doesn't work, this would be the first place I'd look. Just make sure that this plug isn't tripped. Sometimes you can do it for the oddest reasons. 90% of the plugs are ran through it. Your furnace output is right here. It moves all its air through that. So if you want to get a little fan to put back there to try and push some of it around, it's probably going to be a good idea to help circulate things the best. Central vac, far left. Pretty standard. If you look at it, will suck anything you put in front of it, inside of it. Just keep it in mind, it is made for dust, gravel, or dirt. It's not really to be sucking up sticks or anything sharp because it does all go into the bag. To get access to that bag, you're pulling on this here. This opens up, you got a bag. It does connect front and rear, the front being for the tool, this tool that you can install in here, and the back being for that little dustpan feature. Locks into place like so, power switch to turn that on. Up top, you get your refrigerator, Furrion fridge and freezer combo. Controls for both are just right down here. 0 is obviously off. 1 is going to be the warmest setting. 7 is going to be the coldest setting. Then in here, it's a pretty standard kitchen space, but coming to our our stove. Stove does run off propane, and now because we have propane equipped right here near the ground, you got this LP detector. If that guy does ever start going off, don't panic. Just turn off the main supply of propane at the front of the unit, open up some windows and vents, and get some fresh oxygen inside of here. A few more extra notes about propane. Whenever you turn the system off, or especially disconnect the front bottle, it does allow air into the system. Once air makes its way in, it has to be purged out. Easiest, simplest way to do that is by firing up your stove as soon as you get to your campsite. I tell every customer that I speak with, it's always a good measure to do. It just gets the propane flowing, because if you want to go to fire up your furnace, your water heater, those will only try lighting themselves a couple times, and if they don't sense a flame because there's no gas at it yet for it to light, it could throw a fault code at you. If you don't know what the fault code means, it could throw a little wrench in your weekend. So again, always being patient with it, and make sure you try it a second time every time, because again, it could just be a purging issue. But to keep things usually going smoothly, firing up the stove is the best method. Now, of course, I don't have a lighter with me because I forgot one before we started the video, but to get this to light, it is just as simple as pushing in on that, turning it over. Whenever you are running that, because it's a gas stove, just making sure you have a lighter lit already, because as soon as gas starts flowing out of here, if you do have it on for too long and you had a buildup of gas happen, there could be a minor combustion. If your face was nearby, you're going to lose some eyebrows and eyelashes. It's going to be something you want to avoid. So that's why I recommend just coming here and lighting it quickly, just keeps things that much smoother. Sink, not much I need to show you there. Microwave down below, again, just like home. Now up top, you get your thermostat. Push and hold it for 3 or 5 seconds. Turns it on. It's going to go to your last known setting. So in this situation, it is the fan. That's just moving air around with the air conditioner, no heating or cooling involved. Push it one more time, you need to go into dry. It has a dehumidifying mode. It's going to try and take as much moisture out of the air as possible using the air conditioner. One more time after that, you go into cool. So now whenever you are in the cool setting, or the heat setting for that matter, pushing it up or down at any time to change your desired temperature. Fan speed is going to be very important. I always recommend running that fan speed on the automatic setting. The air conditioner is going to pick the best setting it finds, and it creates an on-demand system. So if the room is currently 7 degrees Fahrenheit, once it reaches that 68, which I have changed it to, it'll automatically kill the air conditioner. If you have that fan setting on either high or low, the air conditioner is going to run continuously full time until you actually manually turn it off. Power button one more time. It's going to kill your air conditioner, fire up your furnace. The automatic fan setting is going to be even more important for the furnace because the furnace is its own entity. It runs off gas. So if you had it on the fan on either high or low, the furnace is going to continue it. The furnace is going to start to run, and it's going to continue to run the air conditioner fan, which is something you don't want. It's not the end of the world, but it's just wasting energy. So again, just that automatic setting is the best option. And then if we were in the heat, if we would have been at below 69, it would have fired up your furnace. Once your furnace fires up, again, having that system purge is extremely important already. And then once it fires up, whenever you go to turn it off, it does run for an additional 3 minutes to allow itself time to cool down, just for a safety feature. To turn it off, you just push and hold the power button again, and it does turn itself off. Down below, you get your monitor panel system. Pushing the button tells you the corresponding tank level. Water pump switch, turning that on, does draw out of your fresh tank. And then you got your water heater switch. It's going to seem weird. I know I told you that if you turn the switch on outside, it applies power here, but it actually applies power here, which then applies power there. Now that this is on, up or down at any time to change your set temperature as an added safety feature so kids can't scold their hands. Quick note, hopefully your kids aren't watching with you because otherwise they're going to know how to unlock it. If you push up on this button for at 50, once it's at 50 and it locks itself in, if you push up for 5 seconds, it allows you to go up another 5 degrees. Just keep it in mind, going to 55 degrees Celsius water. It's extremely hot water. You're probably going to scold your hands. You better have some pretty tough hands or be okay with being burnt. Which brings me to my next comment. Because this is a tankless system, it does work a little bit differently. You're probably asking yourself, well, how do I know where I want the water? You want to set this water where you find it the most comfortable with just the hot water on. Because the system works off flow, they don't want you to have to blend in the cold anymore at all, because once you do turn on the cold tap at all, it does throw off the flow. That's going to proceed to inconsistent water temperatures and possibly cold spots. So again, just set this temperature to exactly where you find it comfortable with just the hot on. Now that is going to be it for this unit here. If you have any other questions, feel free to give us a call.